Welcome to the Every Mom is an Athlete podcast, where we believe that motherhood is inherently athletic. I see you lifting car seats, chasing toddlers, and carrying groceries one-handed while holding a baby and a coffee. Your daily life is a workout. I'm Dr. Karlie, pregnancy and postpartum expert, sports chiropractor, strength coach, entrepreneur, and mom of 3. Here you'll find solo episodes and real conversations with other moms and leading experts, so you can live your strongest, healthiest, most aligned life in motherhood. No matter how long it's been since you've had your baby, whether you're reconnecting with your body, rebuilding your strength, or just figuring out what feels good again, you're in the right place. Hello, strong moms. Welcome back. Dr. Karlie here. Today, we are going to do a short little quick and dirty episode about birth prep and what you should be doing for your body to prepare your pelvis to give birth. Whenever I post online about birth prep, I get so many questions about when to start these moves. And same thing in my office. I love to give my patients some 5-minute mobility session that they can start doing. And then that can increase as they get closer to the due date. But the main thing I want people to know is that you don't need to start that sort of birth prep until around 35 weeks, could even be a little bit later. And the reason is, up until that point, we really want to focus on keeping the pelvis nice and stable, right? So all through pregnancy, your ligaments are relaxing. The relaxin is that hormone in your system that is preparing your pelvis for birth, but it also prepares the rest of your joints. So it doesn't just get to spot pick your pelvis to make things looser. It really is the whole body. And so it's really important through pregnancy, especially if we're working out and we want to stay pain-free, to work on stability. And so I'm always having people do stability work. What that looks like is glute work. So squats, glute bridges, deadlifts or hip hinges, good mornings, low back work. So low back extension holds on a bench, or Supermans early on in the pregnancy when you can still lay on your tummy, and lots of lateral hip work too, right? So monster walks, those lateral side steps with a band, banded glute bridges, anything that's really trying to pull your knees in and making you sort of push them out. That's going to make you use those muscles that stabilize the hips. And so we're trying to work all the muscles all the way around the hips, also the core, of course. That's why I built my entire core pregnancy program. So we're doing things to work the transverse abdominis, which, by the way, the transverse abdominis, you hear a lot about this, the TA, it does help to push your baby out. That's one of the actions of the muscle. So it makes sense that we keep that strong during our pregnancy, right? And so if you don't know what that muscle is, you've heard about it, but you're like, what in the heck? It's this big sort of flat muscle. If you imagine, it starts actually in your back and wraps all the way around on each side. You have one on each side, wraps all the way around. It's this big flat muscle that sort of wraps all the way around your abdomen. And so super important to keep those muscles strong. And so it keeps our core and our hips and our glutes and our pelvis and everything stable during pregnancy. Well, right around the 35-week mark, you could still be doing some of that work, especially if it's helping you stay pain-free. If you have a hip injury or something, that it's really using those muscles is helping your hip not to hurt. Sure, great, keep doing them. But we want to switch our focus around that 35-week mark to be more on mobility. So what that means is for example, one of the things I have my patients do is we start working on a squat, a supported squat, but with the idea that we are able to relax in a squat, okay? So we're not squatting with weight. We're not even holding our body weight up. What I have people do is get their backs up against a wall, squat down. If you need something under your bum, a pillow or a yoga block or something like that, then you can totally use that. But then you're really just trying to relax in that position. So you can drive your knees out with your elbows, do some neck stretches. Oh, I'm stretching my neck right now. That feels so good. You can work on your breathing. So do some deep belly breathing, and then really work on letting the pelvic floor relax. So it's going to be the opposite of what we would do during pregnancy and all the other times. So this is really hard to explain via podcast, but I'm going to do it for you anyways because it's really important, okay? So if you are pregnant and you're preparing your pelvis for birth, here is the way you might want to breathe to help your pelvic floor relax. The normal way that our pelvic floor and our diaphragm works is that when we breathe in, we take a breath in, our pelvic floor, our diaphragm, everything moves down. Our lungs are filling with air, and so everything moves down. As we breathe out, everything naturally just starts to move up. What you can do during pregnancy, if you're preparing for birth, is you're going to just breathe normally. So you take a breath in. As you breathe out, you can actually try to push down just a little bit, okay? Not with all your force in the world, but what you're doing here is you're just putting some pressure down through the pelvic floor so that you can start to relax it, right? Because that's the breathing that we're going to use throughout the birthing process. Just a quick pause. If you're feeling like your body doesn't feel like yours anymore after having a baby, if you don't know where to start or you're tired of guessing what's actually safe postpartum, I've got you. I created the Postpartum Restoration Plan to give moms a clear, doctor-designed roadmap to rebuild strength, support their core and pelvic floor, and start feeling strong again. It's just 4 days a week, under 20 minutes, and built for real postpartum life. Whether you're a few weeks or a few years out, it's never too late to start. Click the link in the show notes and I'll walk you through it. So I have people get into this supported squat position, try to relax there. If you haven't been doing this previously, I have my patients start at like 30 seconds to a minute, but then getting up closer to your due date, you want to be able to hold it for up to a couple minutes. 2 or 3 minutes would be ideal because if you think about it, no matter which way you're going to give birth, you need to be comfortable in that squatting position, okay? If you're going to give birth on your back, which arguably, anatomically, is not the best way to give birth, your pelvis is more closed in that position than any other position. We should definitely talk about that on a podcast sometime. But you still are in a squat position, right? You're on hands and knees. You're in a squat position. If you're in a side lying position, you need to be comfortable with those knees sort of up to your chest in a squat position, right? So any position we're in during birth, we need to be comfortable in that position. So that's one of the first things I start my patients on in the office to help them prepare their pelvic floor for birth. Other things would be, and I'm sure you've seen some of this online, but using a big exercise ball is the next thing I have them do. And you're not just like bouncing on that ball. It's great to have that exercise ball for once baby comes, because that is one thing you can do is like bounce them up and down. It's a really nice way to calm them down. But for labor prep and for birth prep, you want to be using it more just sitting on it and moving your pelvis. So I have people move side to side, back and forth, front to back, do little figure eights on it, and then switch directions, do like pelvic circles or hip circles, and really work on trying to get that full range of motion going nice and slow. So normally I'll have people do a couple minutes of that. So a couple minutes of sitting in the squat, couple minutes of rotations on the ball. And then what we want to focus on is really offsetting the pelvis. And what that means is we're trying to shift the hips back and forth, side to side. So this is when you see people doing like curb walking or walking up and down stairs, when they're facing sideways and just sort of like moving one leg at a time. This is the reason, because as you offset that pelvis, it's going to help the baby move its way down and be able to get into a good position so that it can engage your cervix and like get the whole thing going. Okay. So that's why people are doing that sort of thing. And so what I'll have people do normally is sit in a butterfly position, rock back and forth. You can do some adductor stretching or that inner thigh stretches. That can be helpful as long as you don't have any symphysis pubic dysfunction or SPD going on. Other things are, like I mentioned, curb walking, stair walking. I like hip shifts, which basically is where you're on your hands and knees. Like if you were going to do like cat cows or something like that, which you can totally do some cat cows, but then get into a nice like neutral position of your back and shift the hips side to side, back and forth. And what you'll find is that one of those hips usually feels a little bit tighter than the other. And so you can kind of lean into that a little bit. But those are just some of the basic things that I love to have my patients start with. You'll find that it can be really relieving, but also it's going to help prepare your pelvis for baby to come. I do include, by the way, in my Prego Core program, if you're using that currently, some people don't realize at the end, the last few weeks, it does include birth prep. And there are some little mobility sessions in there that you could add in that are, 5 to 10 minutes of things that you can do to prepare your pelvis. And again, remember, this is just talking about physically preparing. There's all kinds of other stuff. Maybe I'll do another episode on that, talking about like eating dates, which actually has been proven to be very effective in preparing your cervix to give birth. So maybe we'll do another episode about that. But this is just sort of physically at home. What can you be doing to prepare your pelvis to have an easier labor, hopefully an easier recovery, and like get that baby in a good position? All right, that's all from me for today. If you are looking for more help, you know where to find me. Be sure to follow Dr. Karlie on Instagram, TikTok. I'm always trying to give helpful tidbits of advice there. And if you haven't, please, please, please don't make me beg. I'm already begging. Go ahead and follow the show so you don't miss anything. And I would so appreciate your 5 stars and a review. It really does help other moms to find us and know that they're not alone in wanting to stay strong through pregnancy, through postpartum, and get back to the things they love. All right, until next time, strong moms. Thanks for listening. Every Mom is an Athlete isn't just a podcast. It's a reminder. Motherhood is athletic, and you're still the athlete you've always been. But it's not about going back. It's about moving forward intentionally and powerfully. If this episode resonated with you, I'd so appreciate it if you'd share it with a friend, leave a quick review, or rate the show. It helps more moms to hear what they need to believe, that every mom is an athlete. See you next time.